co-hosting tonight's forum. In addition to First State Action Fund, this forum is being sponsored by Delaware PTA, the Central Delaware NAACP branch, the Delaware Coalition Against Gun Violence, ACLU, Network Delaware, Safe Schools, and the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. There are two candidates running for one at-large contested seat in the Milford School District, of which voters may select one. Multiple attempts were made to each candidate, inviting them to participate. However, only one candidate responded and accepted the invitation. This forum is streaming live on First State Action Fund's Facebook page and is also being recorded. Please keep in mind, this is a forum and not a debate. Therefore, there will be no rebuttals. This forum provides participating candidates with an opportunity to speak about their priorities and views on issues that are important to voters. First, each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves. When tonight's moderators, Helen Salita and Kim Whittle, prompts a question, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to that question. There is a timer set to go off once the candidate has reached their 1 minute allowance. Candidates are asked to discontinue speaking once that timer goes off. Members of the audience will be muted and are asked to stay off camera for the duration of the forum. However, members of the audience may ask questions in the chat, which I will present to the candidates once the moderator completes all rounds of questions. Please note that no personal or political party affiliation questions will be asked of the candidates. Candidates will have 30 seconds to respond to chat questions. We will try to get as many questions answered as possible, although there is no guarantee that we will have time to answer them depending on where we are on time. Finally, each participating candidate will have 1 minute to wrap up at the conclusion of the forum. We thank you all for attending, and with that, I will turn it over to tonight's moderators.
Thank you for walking us through those instructions, Fleur. So like you said, everyone, there is one competitive race going on this year in Milford. It is Milford at large. And Danielle, I'm going to turn it over to you now for your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Diner, and I am running for the Milford School Board at-large seat. I feel that I would make a good candidate for the school board because of my experiences and my ability to see things from many different lenses. I hold a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's degree in special education with certification in severe disabilities and autism. In my career, I have worked as a paraprofessional, a teacher of multiple grade levels, and an administrator. In my role as an administrator, I often rode the school bus and had conversations around discipline, implemented trauma-informed practices, and had many other opportunities to work with teachers. I am also a parent of 3 children, 2 of which currently attend Milford schools. I am currently a stay-at-home mom, but I volunteer regularly in the schools. I'm on the PTP leadership team at 2 of the schools, and I coach Little League. If elected, I would be very honored to bring my experience and passion to the Milford School District and to our school board to focus on the success of our students.
Thank you for that opening statement, Danielle. And with that, we will go into question 1. So the first question is, what are a school board member's roles and responsibilities? How does your background fit into this role? And how does that role differ from the role of a superintendent or administration?
So a school board member has 3 main roles. First and foremost, they work to oversee the overarching policies that are in place, update them where needed, and implement new policies as appropriate. Second, they oversee and evaluate the superintendent of the school district. And last, they're a representative of the community of which they serve. I would like community members, students, families, and teachers to feel very comfortable speaking with me and sharing their concerns. The experiences that I have had definitely have equipped me to be a part of the school board because I have experience inside the classroom and on the outside of the classroom as a parent. The role of the school board member differs from that of the superintendent or the administrator who is in charge of executing those policies that are put in place by our school board. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer, Danielle. I just forgot to mention to you and to the audience that the questions are also going to be dropped in the Slack or in the chat, just in case you need to look at the second part of that. Moving on to question number 2. How do you view a school board member's role and responsibilities around improving student outcomes, given
sorry.
that our
I ain't listening to this stuff.
is someone okay? I'm gonna read that again because there was some chatter on the Zoom call there. How do you view a school board member's role and responsibilities around improving student outcomes, given that our state has a 29% math proficiency rate and a 42% literacy rate, and we fall into the bottom third of the country?
So looking at our current proficiency levels is very alarming. School board members have really two main ways that they can focus on academic outcomes. First and foremost, they should be meeting regularly with the superintendent to set realistic goals that we can measure and hold them accountable for. So as I mentioned earlier, we are responsible for evaluating the superintendent. So we have to set those goals around our academic success. We need to then be meeting in with the superintendent and ensuring that those goals are being achieved. Second, we have to work on providing the right funding and supports to ensure that our teachers and our staff are able to meet those goals. So as a school board member, I would work to allocate the appropriate resources and funding to achieve them.
Thank you for that answer. So question number 3 is, do you believe implicit bias exists in your district? If so, what do you plan to do as a school board member to make sure that implicit bias isn't negatively impacting students and staff?
So I believe that every single person has implicit bias. I think it's something that we have to work as school board members, as individuals, to really understand what implicit bias is and what our own personal biases may be. I think as a school board member, we are the top of the school district. So if we are modeling that behavior of acknowledging our implicit biases, of acknowledging, what we can do to make our community more inclusive and understanding, I think that trickles down into our administrators, our staff, and our students. Because when we work together, it will positively impact our students.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer, Danielle. So question 4 is, the previous question was about racial and social justice. With this question, we'd like for you to think about the needs of our intellectually diverse community. Give one specific example to describe how you would ensure quality education for all students. For example, gifted and talented, special needs, English language learners, those from diverse cultural backgrounds. Danielle?
I strongly believe that education is not a one-size-fits-all model. When I was a teacher, one of the things that I did at the start of every school year was a lesson where immediately following recess, students would come inside and I would pretend that multiple students were injured at recess, some with a bee sting, a stomach bug, a broken leg. And then I would put Band-Aids on each kid's forehead. And the reason that I did this is to demonstrate to them that it would be very, very silly if I sent them to the nurse with injuries and she treated them all with a Band-Aid. Similarly, our teachers in our classrooms have to be able to treat children based on what their actual needs are. So we have to be able to evaluate exactly what their areas of strength are and their areas of need are and provide instruction around those needs. So when we talk about all of these different types of students, gifted students, special needs students, multi-language learners, we have to make sure that we're using our funding creatively to determine what our students need and design instructions specifically to meet those needs.
Thank you for that answer, Danielle. So question 5 is, the hosts of this forum strongly support safe and supportive schools. The Delaware Department of Education district level data shows that Brown, Black, and special education students are disproportionately represented in discipline referrals, suspension, and arrests. What other steps beyond existing policies should the school district take to ensure fair and equitable treatment for all students? Danielle?
So, as I mentioned earlier, one of the main roles of the school board is to evaluate the superintendent. when we talk with, or I'm sorry, when I've spoken with many different parents, many different community members, teachers, the biggest concern is discipline. So when we're evaluating the superintendent, we have to set a goal specifically around discipline and discipline data. You can't set a goal if you're not looking at how we are holding that goal accountable and how we are achieving that goal. So we also have to review data. That data has to include looking at trends and looking at what are some of the things that are happening? Are we having areas where there are more referrals? Why are we having more referrals in that specific area? So I recently met with an individual at the school district that shared with me that most of the referrals right now are coming from our 9th grade students. What proactive interventions are we therefore putting in place to support those 9th grade students? I support using data-informed approaches to make sure that we are addressing all groups so that no one is disproportionately represented.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Oh, that's all right. Thank you for that answer, Danielle. Question 6 is, the hosts of this forum strongly support family engagement and education. What is your position on continuing to offer a virtual option for school board meetings? Provide an example of how you value community and family engagement.
So as a mom of 3, I truly believe that one of the best things to come out of the pandemic was the ability to offer more virtual opportunities for our families. Right now I am very active on both PTPs and we hold a lot of our meetings virtually. And I know that our school district allows for our school board meetings to be held virtually as well as in person. I think this hybrid approach is such a great way for individuals to still be a part of things, whether they live in the district or they maybe, have transportation concerns, or maybe they're just really busy. We've had people that have dialed in that might be at the baseball fields or at soccer or running kids to and fro. And so we have to make sure that we are providing those opportunities. The more we can engage with our families, even by just listening into these very important meetings, is huge. I also support having the meetings recorded and available on our website like we do currently.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer and for answering all of those, the first half of those questions, Danielle. And for the second half, I'm going to turn it over to my co-moderator, Kim. Kim, the floor is yours.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
So I'm going to go on with question 6. Take a deep breath. The host of this forum, question 7. The host of this forum strongly supports laws around common sense gun laws. Given that there has been an unprecedented number of school shootings in 2023, please elaborate on your views on guns and safe storage and how this can affect the increased violence in our communities near schools.
School safety is a top priority to me. I actually reached out to the superintendent recently and our school constable about our upcoming election to make sure that we are putting in place safety measures when we are having our elections, because we'll have, a more open format in our schools. When we are looking at the resources that we have, I support making sure that we have training for our staff members. We have school constables in place and SROs available to support our schools with school security. I am also very aware of the alarming statistics related to gun deaths in our youth. Statistically speaking, we have an estimated 4.6 million children living at home with at least one loaded, unlocked firearm. I support public awareness campaigns that encourage safe firearm storage practices in order to make sure that our students are safe at home and not having access to firearms.
Thank you for that answer. Going on to question 8, there has been a lot of discussions around banning books and critical race theory at school board meetings all over the country. What are your views around this, and how will you implement policy to reflect it?
I strongly believe that students need access to a historically accurate education. My goal is that we are producing students that are able to adapt to our ever-evolving world, use critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, and collaborate with others. I feel that this can only be accomplished through providing our students with high quality literature and reading materials that challenge them to think critically. I believe all students need access to educational materials that are free from censorship and lead to open dialogue about our history. I think that that also goes hand in hand with providing training and support for our staff to make sure that they feel comfortable when they're having these tough conversations with students. We also have to engage with our families to make sure that they're aware of some of the content that we're discussing so that we can really embrace that whole child approach by having all stakeholders involved in these conversations.
Thank you for your answer. School boards all over the nation are adopting policies around protecting LGBTQ plus and transgender students. What are your views on this policy and where do you see the school's role in this area?
So the role of the school board member in looking at overarching policy is making sure that we are representing the community of which we serve. So when we are looking at any policy decisions, we need to be having conversations with our stakeholders out in the community. One of my strengths is that I'm a very strong communicator and I'm willing to listen to and hear many points of view. I have friends that have lots of different backgrounds, and I think that my ability to hear from anyone makes me a strong candidate. My goal as a representative of that community is to make sure that every child is represented, regardless of the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, their income level, or their gender. I want to make sure that they feel I am someone they can come to discuss concerns, ideas, and questions. I would work with individuals in our community to ensure that we are supporting all students, because all students deserve the right to an equal and fair education where they feel comfortable and safe.
Thank you. Thank you. Question number 10. Mental health continues to be a tremendous issue for students and staff in our schools. What is your view on social emotional learning resources and schools providing these resources to students? Where do you think there is room for improvement?
So I strongly believe that mental health supports should be available to all students. As a school board member, I think that we need to build strong relationships with our families and our community, and we need to make sure that we are providing and allocating the funding for mental health to occur. Right now, Milford School District works really closely with many mental health groups, and I'm proud to say that even in the last 5 years, I've seen an increase in the counseling services that are available at our schools. I would like to support continuing to grow these connections so that our students have more access to mental health in our schools.
Thank you. Question 11. The school to prison pipeline seems to be increasing. What policies would you recommend to end this? And what are your views on SROs, student resource officers, and how they impact this?
So when we're looking at our discipline practices, I think it's important that they include the following. We must discipline equitably across all genders, races, and socioeconomic levels. We must have discipline practices that are appropriate and include consequences that make sense to the behavior that occurred. We also have to have discipline practices that include a strong teaching component so that we are working on behavioral change instead of just punishing for something that occurred. We have to build relationships with students where we focus on teaching and reinforcing appropriate behaviors. I think it's also important that with our SROs and school constables, we separate them from the position of school discipline. Their overarching role in the school should be focused around school security, and they should only be brought into situations where a law was truly broken. They should not be utilized to oversee or manage our day-to-day disciplinary actions in our schools.
Thank you. Last one. Question 12. Recently, there is a lot of talk around charter schools and their growth in our state. What are your views on school choice? And please elaborate on how you view charter schools.
So I currently have 3 children, and what I have learned in my experience as a mom is despite having very similar situations at home, raising them very similarly, they're all very different and their needs are very different. And so when it comes to educating our children, I believe that every single parent deserves the right to choose what is the right placement for their child. My goal and my hope is that we are making Milford School District a competitive district that has a lot of options and things to offer for our families so that it is a great choice for many families in our community. But with that said, I also understand that we have to make the choices that are the right choices for each of our individual children.
Thank you. And that is up for me. I'll turn it over to Floor. Thank you.
Hi again, everyone. So there are no questions in the chat from any of the participants. So with that, Danielle, you have 1 minute to wrap up.
So first, I would like to just take a minute to thank everyone that took the time out of their busy schedule tonight to join us. I really appreciate the moderators, and the groups that have made this evening possible. I hope that through this forum, you were able to get to know me a little bit better, specifically my positions. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions or would like to talk with me more. You can find me on Facebook at Danielle Diner for Milford School Board. Regardless of how this election goes, Milford is my home. It is my community and education is my passion. I will continue to be an involved and active participant in the future of our school district. Please don't forget, voting will take place on May 9th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And you may vote at Morris, Lulu Ross, Banneker, or Milford High School. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for that. And folks, that wraps up the Milford School Board Candidate Forum. Please don't forget to rock the vote on Tuesday, May 9th, and take a soul to the poll with you if you can. The polls are open from 7 to 8 p.m. And as Danielle mentioned, the polling places are different from your normal general election. She gave you where the polling stations are, but you can also visit www.votedelaware.org to find your polling place. Take care and good night.